Welcome to AZ Techcast, sponsored by the Arizona Technology Council, with your hosts, Steve Zylstra and Karen Nowit. AZ Techcast is dedicated to covering innovation and technology in Arizona and beyond. Broadcasted monthly, AZ Techcast invites leading experts to have real conversations about what is happening in the tech sector across the state of Arizona. From regional news to innovative startups, companies, and emerging technologies, AZ Techcast covers the critical issues and economic trends propelling the state's growing tech ecosystem.
From SEO to paid media to website design, refining your company's digital marketing strategy can be overwhelming. But if created intentionally, it can be a critical step towards meeting key business goals. I'm Karen Nowicki, president and owner of Phoenix Business Radio X, and I'd like to welcome you to AZ Techcast, sponsored by Arizona Technology Council. AZ Techcast is dedicated to covering innovation and technology in Arizona and beyond. Broadcasted monthly, AZ Techcast invites tech and business experts to have real conversations about what's happening across the state of Arizona. AZ Techcast discusses the critical issues, topics, and trends propelling the state's growing tech ecosystem. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to today's features guest. We have Simon Golding, Senior Digital Marketing Consultant at Intero Digital. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Happy to have you. Rihanna Lawrence, Content Marketing Manager at Trimble SketchUp. Hello, Rihanna.
Hey.
And Andrew Smart, Co-Founder and Commercial Director at Slater. Hello.
Hi, Karen. Oh, sorry. My alarm's going off to tell me I should be here.
Are you awake?
Well, you're here, so all good.
Well, yeah, right. Well done. It was almost on cue. And Andrew, ding, 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 ding. Yeah, we should have those little bells like a game show. Good.
It's a little buzzer.
Come on
That's
down.
right. Yeah, right. And then we also have Bianca Baliga, who is the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Council, and she is often a co-host with me when Steve is not able to be here. Welcome, Bianca.
Thank you so much, Karen. Excited to be here with you.
Yes, we love Steve, but we also love when you and I get to play on this podcast together as well. So we are going to shed some light on up-and-coming digital marketing solutions that can give your company a competitive edge. And we have a lot of interesting ground to cover, so we're going to dive right in. And we always like to start by simply having each of you introduce yourselves, the role that you play in your organization, and then how that fits into the Arizona technology ecosystem. So Simon, I'm going to ask if you could start us off, and then we're just going to let you all pop up and join into the conversation.
Round robin, love it.
Thank you.
Simon Golding from this corner. My title is Senior Digital Marketing Consultant here at Intero Digital. So we're a comprehensive digital marketing agency. If it relates to digital, we're in that space. And my job role is to consult with clients to help put together a plan that's going to get them the objective they're looking for within the timeline and budget that they have to play with. So we're a lot of hats on this side of the fence. It's a really exciting job. Get to talk to a lot of different businesses, a lot of different sectors. But it's a little bit about my corner of this crazy world.
Mm-hmm.
I can jump in here. My name is Rihanna Lawrence. I'm Content Marketing Manager at Trimble SketchUp. I oversee content strategy and content creation as part of SketchUp's marketing team. For those of you who don't know what SketchUp is, it's a design software company. Our goal is to provide faster and easier design tools for architects, engineers, and construction professionals so they can fulfill their dreams designing and building.
My name is Andrew Smart. I'm a co-founder and commercial director at Slater. We are a business media company focusing on the global language services industry, which means we provide news, research, analysis and information, advisory services, events, all to support the global language industry. This is primarily vendors who provide language services such as translation, localization, interpretation, and the corporate buyers of those services, which can be across literally every industry and every part of the world. And so how does it relate to, say, Arizona? I think, the fact that technology enables you to work remotely, you could either work for a company from Arizona, or you could be headquartered in Arizona, and you can reach out to the world. And through different tools and technologies and support, you can do digital marketing, or you could put your content out there and literally reach anyone, anywhere in the world.
Excellent. Thank you for those great introductions. I'm looking forward to hearing more. And we want to make sure that Bianca has a chance to kind of represent for the AZ Tech Council as well.
I'll do my best to rip it good. Hi, everybody. Bianca Buliga, Arizona Technology Council. The council is the state's premier trade association for science and technology companies. We have over 750 member companies that represent just about every tech sector you can imagine, from optics and photonics to aerospace and defense. I like to tell people that we're a mile wide and an inch deep. We like to really cover every corner of technology to the best of our ability. We host about 100 plus events every single year. We stay really busy in that regard. Our second pillar of change is focused on public policy advocacy. So we like to advocate for a pro-tech and pro-growth environment at the local, state, and federal levels. And then finally, we offer a really robust suite of resources, especially for small and mid-sized businesses, to be able to expand their impact without taking on additional administrative burdens. So I'll keep it short and sweet. I did want to quickly note too, Karen, that Intero Digital is a valued member of ours. And they are also a sponsor, a platinum level sponsor. So we're excited to shine a light on what they do and also some of the impact that they've had on businesses like Trimble SketchUp and like Slater, so that they can expand their impact even more. So
good. Great. Well, let's dive right in. I can't imagine, but maybe so, that there's someone out there listening or watching on LinkedIn that doesn't know what digital marketing is. But let's start from the very beginning. I think that's why I co-host, because I'm kind of have a beginner's mind and was a third grade teacher for years. So a lot of times these topics are well over my head. Digital marketing, let's define it and let's talk about how it has evolved the past couple of decades, because it certainly has. So again, we're just going to let you all jump in and find our way through a great definition and springboard for our other topics.
Love that. Yeah, I'll jump in there first. I feel like it is such a broad kind of label naturally, and sort of should stay broad in a sense. But any leveraging of digital communications for kind of an intentional outcome was the definition I kept coming back to. And because there's so many different technologies that bring you into the fold of digital, and there's so many different objectives, so many different goals that we might be deploying those technologies for. So any kind of intentional use, any strategically intentional use of digital communications was the definition I landed on. And we've got a couple smiling faces in the room. What do you guys think? What did I miss, Rihanna?
Oh, I think you covered it all. I would just say, when we're looking at digital marketing, we look at different things. We look at the user intent, our business goals, and product goals, and we mash all of those together, and then that's the output that we create. I also wanted to mention that we can jump in a little bit into the evolution of it, because I think you covered the definition pretty darn well. I think that what we've noticed as we move to digital marketing is just, that instant communication is readily available. We can interact with our customers more. We can reach a wider audience, and we can track our interactions better with the analytics that we have. We've also noticed an increased competition in the digital space. So that's also kept us on our toes. We have to constantly evolve along with digital marketing. We've noticed that attention spans are significantly decreasing. So, in terms of evolution, we've gone from that 1 minute video to that 16-second video. All of these things are just trends and ideas and stuff that we have to really keep in mind as we look at and define digital marketing moving forward.
If I could just add one more to that, I think one great thing about technology is it's actually an enabler that can bring down the cost of doing certain types of businesses or the barriers of entry. And so it really actually starts to open up new markets for what you do. So, when there was old-fashioned print publishing or, billboards and television, it was very expensive. And, you have a lot more options, a lot more tools, and you can be much more targeted in what you do. And I think that's where it gets very interested, as you touched on earlier with the analytics.
And Now, I think there are still a lot of people out there who, when they think about marketing, they think about those printed brochures that are stuck in their, screen doors, or the things that they receive in the mail. And I think there are certain industries that still require that traditional physical marketing. But what do you all think? Has digital marketing completely replaced traditional marketing, or is there still a time and place where traditional marketing may still be relevant?
Well, if you don't mind, I'm sure people aren't thinking about in-person events, but in the corporate setting, uh, conferences are extremely important as perhaps the highest value-added touch point for two people to get together and have a long, in-depth conversation. So I would say that real-world experience is not going to be replaced by digital. We went through the pandemic. We ran a lot of online conferences. The content was good, some networking, but it certainly doesn't replace the in-person experience.
Andrew,
Sure.
I 100% agree with you there. I mean, we do a lot of digital marketing, but I'm so glad we're out of the pandemic now, and we've been able to host our in-person events. We have a event that we host every other year called 3D Basecamp, and we've had such a response from our community. It just helps build empathy and connection with our customers in a way that you can't really in a digital setting. I think that the idea now is it's not just physical, it's not just digital, but it's combining the different methods together. Um, Especially when you look at DI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's some groups that, maybe because of an aging population or they're underserved, they don't have access to the internet, or, vice versa. There's some people who are online a lot and can't get out somewhere. So it's really important not only from a business standpoint, but from inclusion standpoint to have multiple methods of marketing working together.
Yeah,
That's a great point.
really love that. Yeah, and from a digital agency perspective, it's very clear that briefs are more likely to succeed when they're deploying more than one channel. If you're trying to be successful through any one avenue, it can be very difficult to get to success. And so connecting that back to the topic question, companies that are really investing across channels and have a decent brand identity out there in the public eye through traditional marketing, that gives us something as a digital agency to leverage and connect with and kind of link into. So I strongly agree with both Rihanna and Andrew there that it definitely is still an important part, particularly for some sectors, and that you're going to, whoever you are, have a better outcome if you're combining the strengths of multiple channels rather than just focusing on one.
Great. What would you say the most in-demand digital marketing services are right now in today's world?
Yeah, that's such a tricky one. Let me share some thoughts with services, and then I'll pivot the question to channels. Because I think in terms of service lines, it's definitely still true that all the paid media channels are arguably the most in demand. That is to say, to the uninitiated in the room, paid advertising, say on social media, rather than organic, unpaid posting. And same for search, paid search advertising rather than unsponsored, kind of organic rankings. It's all absolutely important. But when I'm asked about demand, I'd say the paid channels are under the most demand because everybody wants things the fastest. I want results yesterday, and paid media channels simply, move quicker. So there's that comment. I think the more interesting sort of division is about channels in the sense that, so Google has been around for a long time and is still absolutely dominant in the sector. But my, TikTok and Amazon have rapidly, taken over certain information segments. And I'd say that those two networks or channels, Amazon and TikTok, are probably the two that we're hearing the most about at the moment, because with a new marketplace or a new landscape is potential to be the guy who got to the top of the hill first, for whatever your given business industry might be. So we're seeing a lot of really interesting exploration with TikTok specifically, about how that can fit into the marketing plan of a mature business. Yeah, so love that question. I think paid services are the most popular, and I think that TikTok and Amazon are the 2,000-pound gorillas in that particular room at the moment.
As you toss it off to somebody else to chime in, I'm surprised to hear you say Amazon. They offer marketing services? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Not that they offer services per se, but if you're selling a product, employing an agency like us to make
Of
sure you're
course.
showing up. Yeah, and Amazon specifically, one of my favorite stats to throw out there. So if you look at 2022, the obvious stat is that most e-com transactions checked out on Amazon, about 75%. That's ridiculous. It's huge, huge majority. But what's more interesting is that around about 63% of product search started on Amazon. And so historically, where you saw people Google a product and then circle to Amazon to check out, people are now starting their discovery journey on Amazon. So it's definitely growing rapidly in that sort of discovery capacity.
If I can just touch on, I mean, I'm going to have to frame a lot of my answers from the B2B, the business to business background that we work from. But email is particularly important. And having a well curated and developed database that you can go to for different types of messaging. We find email particularly useful, not just for promoting our own products, through our newsletters, but also we provide advertising services for others to do so. The other thing that I would circle back on is video, both in the front end promotion of certain things, conferences and events or research that we do, and also on the back end. So, we would do a webinar like this or a workshop or a conference. And then, of course, we'd slice and dice portions out for consumptions later and put it across social media and other places. So these two things, video, I think is increasingly important, incredibly important.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew, I agree too. I mean, one of the things that we appreciate about Intro Digital and what they do for us is they like to keep us, I'm sure you too, they keep us kind of abreast of what the latest trends are. And video has really risen to the forefront just because of what I mentioned before with those shorter, attention spans, and video is just a lot more attention grabbing.
Yeah.
And maybe Simon, you can give us a couple, examples of these in practice, but I would say that. And then there's also a lot of services that you don't really think about. I mean, you mentioned TikTok, and social media is one of those that people still sometimes think of as, just a social tool, but it's so much more. And if companies are actively in that space, they can have a huge influence.
Yeah. Yeah, strongly agree. You go, Bianca.
Oh, I'd be curious to hear everyone's take on influencer marketing. That's probably one of those things where people might be curious to learn how it works or to tap into their networks to experiment with it. But has there been a big rise in interest in experimenting with influencer marketing?
Yeah, I love that question. It ebbs and flows, to be frank. I've seen a few waves of interest with influencer, and I think it's pretty deeply connected to TikTok as an example. There's definitely an appetite from a lot of business owners to experiment with and play with some of these new technologies that are a little scary to them, and they're not sure how it can fit into their marketing, particularly with the points you just heard from Rihanna and Andrew of kind of knowing when to use which tool. If I'm a business to business agency and I'm curious about influencer and TikTok and video, trying to figure out how to sensibly leverage those kinds of tools in a way that aligns with my audience is definitely a big one. So one of the added answers that was coming through my mind as we're just chatting through services is consultancy and strategy. And it's so easy to accidentally brush past that. But truth be told, I guess that's probably the most in-demand service, is people coming to us and saying, 35,000 options here. How do I build a sensible strategy that pieces those together? And what are you seeing other people do for my industry? And so I think influence is a great example of people wanting to play with those new tools. It's also a very authentic medium in some senses. And it leans into, we're kind of watching this shift of consumer behavior towards demanding transparency and being very mindful of privacy and all these sorts of issues. Influencer marketing is kind of, the market's desire to hear from our peers rather than just brands. And so you're seeing that shift in paradigm for where those communications will come from, kind of evolve in front of us, which is really cool to watch.
I also think in a business context, again, the alternative to the business context of an influencer is a thought leader, somebody who's an expert in an area, and they would put content out. And in an advertising context, actually, people who publish sponsored articles on our website get much deeper and longer engagement of about 4 minutes on that article compared to press releases, which are about 3 minutes, and a regular news story about 2 minutes. So even though it's advertising, if you actually put something of real value out there, something that people are genuinely interested in, then you actually get engagement, and people take that and they file it away and then go through the decision-making process. And then they come out the other side at some point and they reach out to you.
In a sense, I feel like expertise is part of the formula with influencer marketing, and the other part of the formula is the following, right?
Yes.
You've got folks on TikTok all the time who may or may not be experts in any given topic, but they have that killer following. And that's what a lot of these brands are trying to get in front of folks, especially folks of younger generations. Simon, I know you started to speak to this a little bit earlier, and I'm going to frame this question in two ways to be applicable to everybody. So, Simon, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see companies needing support with, and how can digital marketing agencies help? And then Rihanna and Andrew, maybe what were some of the challenges that you were facing internally that propelled you to seek help from a digital marketing agency?
Yeah, love that question. I think the top line answer I'm going to kind of provide there in terms of where we find companies primarily needing the support is definitely back on that strategy point and consultative direction. There's just so many options that we have, and I think probably a solid 2/3 of inquiries that we receive that we end up moving forward with. The service lines they ended up engaging were distinctly different from what they were asking for when they knocked on the front door. And the gap between those two is where a lot of the magic happens in kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of, dear business owner, what is it that led you to reach out? What's the why behind the why? And how can we really translate that into actionable marketing objectives that are going to get you where you want to go? So that's definitely a top line answer there. And then kind of connected to that, I think the second probably most common request that the people are coming for is definitely demand generation. Vis-a-vis the comments Rihanna was adding earlier about this industry evolving, attention spans are dropping as the velocity of communication increases. So as messaging gets more dense and loud, people tend to withdraw and hear less. And so it's very difficult to kind of cut through effectively. And in this rapidly evolving time to be alive, staying relevant and effective with messaging and comms is definitely that through line. I'd love to hear, Andrew, if you've got any thoughts there, mate, in terms of where, because I know you also hear from a lot of different companies in terms of where their challenges are being met. Does that align with with what you're hearing out there in the trenches?
It does, because when we look at our universe of companies, most of them are small and medium-sized companies with revenue of less than $5 million. Half the audience is a small company. And so they have the same challenges of every small company, which is how to be an expert on everything, including marketing. How do I find the resources? How do I get my head across this? How do I become an expert? And that's why you really should go and talk to somebody who knows what they're doing and has seen it across 1,000 different real world situations. And that's what you're going to them for, to help them have them help shape your thinking on your own business. There's a lot of invaluable consultancy there. And then, maybe lay out a game plan for you and what might be right. And it will save you a huge amount of time, a huge amount of energy. And, you can measure things so much more effectively these days in digital that you'll start to see real metrics. It might take a little time to get things going with, say, SEO or other things, but you can see the needle start to move.
Yeah, Andrew, I agree with that. Having that expertise of somebody who can really dive into something is great. And even if you have experts on your team, that objective opinion of a third party coming in is so, so valuable because we are clouded by our own preconceived notions. I also think any big business shift, when you're talking about small companies, if they've had a lot of growth, or for example, when we shifted from license to subscription, we needed to completely update our digital advertising strategy. And that's the time when we bring in those third parties to focus on our advertising platforms, really give them a deep dive. Are there any that we don't need to be on? Are there any that we need to improve upon? And how can we scale as we grow?
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Bianca. I will then. On the topic of influencer, we've had a handful of people come through the studio, and one of the things I love so much is when we have our clients like AZ Tech Council come and be part of what we're doing on a monthly or weekly basis. The conversation around being proven over popular is really important, right? And there's a thread that each of you are discussing. If someone's going to land out there as an influencer, you've got to have the chops underneath that. You've got to be able to prove that you are worth your weight in gold. And thank goodness for professionals like you to help bring that mission and purpose up and bubbling up instead of just a talking head that really, if somebody goes to purchase their services or their goods and find that company, large or small enterprise or small business, if there's not anything that backs it, I think that ends up creating some problems where digital media is concerned.
Yeah.
And Karen, I would add being authentic over being popular from an influencer standpoint, because it doesn't, if you have an influencer who's hugely popular, but they don't reach your audience, that they don't connect, that what they're selling starts to feel salesy, then you've lost them,
Yeah.
So I agree with all of that. It's so important to choose your influencers carefully, because otherwise you're wasting your time.
Yeah. And I think influence is such an interesting service compared to a lot of the other things in digital marketing. And one of the ways it's very unique is that a successful influencer marketing collaboration is exactly that, a collaboration with the influencer, because they are the expert for their audience and their brand and what they're going to be effective representing and what they aren't. And that's very different to other service lines. And so we'll often have clients that are interested in exploring influencer marketing that we will counsel not to, because they're trying to use it like a paid search campaign or a paid social campaign and saying, oh, well, I would like them to fit in this box. And that's just not a wise way to approach it. And that's a really big shift, and I think it's also really interesting that you can't really effectively commission influencers to say the thing you want them to say. Not really. You can commission them to say something and hope that your product speaks for itself. But again, that is a different landscape compared to what a lot of business owners are used to. And
they're going to deliver it in their own way.
Exactly. And I think the last really cool nuance with influence that I quite like, I'm quite enjoying watching, is the value of the content they create is as valuable as them sharing it. And that was not obvious in the early days of influence. If you rewind, say, 10 years, the value of the video they might create for you, dear business owner, being able to take that video and repurpose it for, say, paid advertising, is tremendously valuable. And influencers themselves are kind of catching up to understanding this, which is a good thing. And it's great to see them demanding their worth and really coming along as a mature service in the digital marketing spread, rather than just being perceived as a shiny toy of a new service. It's really awesome to see that service line find its stride in some sense.
And I've noticed too that consumers have gotten exceptionally good at detecting authenticity, right? And I think they really yearn that and that genuine connection. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And I wanted to, as we were talking a little bit about the challenges that companies might face, or the real life use cases of companies turning to digital marketing agencies for support with some business challenges, I wanted to share the story of the council. The council has been around for 20 years. We have done an exceptional job of helping to shape Arizona's tech ecosystem, but also bring together the leaders and leading companies within the tech ecosystem to have a say in where the industry goes from here. But I know that in the last couple of years, the work that we've been able to do has really been amplified by the SEO services that Intero Digital provides. We actually just did a huge website redesign with another partner who worked really closely hand in hand with Intero Digital to make sure that each new page we were putting on the website was being found, that the keywords were being optimized, that everything that we were kind of reorganizing on the back end was easy to navigate. So I just, as a one-person marketing team, have really relied heavily on Deming, who is part of the Intero Digital team, to point us in the right direction in terms of what keywords to be focusing on and what keywords we should be building content around to bring people to our site. So even us as a trade association that has a pretty small but mighty team has benefited from this. I can't even imagine how larger teams have been able to benefit from services like these.
Yeah. And digital, I mean, whatever else it is, it's an infinite rabbit hole that's constantly changing. You know, you start to get used to the rules and discover they changed 5 minutes ago. So I think that spirit of collaboration that you're touching on, Bianca, I think is so pivotal in this industry. Leveraging experts and letting them, take the reins for their piece of the puzzle and collaborating effectively is just critical. And great little shout out for Deming. She is fantastic. If you're listening, Deming out there somewhere.
I just want to add, though, another important thing just before we go move on to the next topic is we did a workshop with Intero, and Simon actually went through a major Google search update that came out, I think maybe about 2 years ago. And it was a massive shift that impacted a lot of people's websites in our industry. And so, laying all that out and telling people what they will need to look at and what they will need to do was incredibly important for helping them, try to retain traffic and maintain that marketing visibility and engagement.
100%.
Yeah. This is a great conversation so far, I can tell, because Bianca's smiling ear to ear. So we always know we're doing well when Bianca's like, yay, we're hitting all the high notes. We're going to break for a word from our sponsor here for just a moment, and then we'll come back with our next set of questions and topics. We want to make sure that we have an opportunity to thank Arizona Commerce Authority, who is AZ Techcast 2023 innovation sponsor. The Arizona Commerce Authority is the state's leading economic development organization with a streamlined mission to grow and strengthen Arizona's economy. Let's hear from them now.
Our streamlined pro-business approach helps you achieve more by putting less between you and future success. Less red tape, lower taxes, less distance separating you from the tech leaders of tomorrow. This
I think we lost a little bit of it. That's a first. All right, let's pull that, and maybe we'll come back to it in a bit so we have a proper opportunity to thank them. Hello again. Is it going to run?
Good old technology.
Yes, right? Right. Oh my gosh, best laid plans. All right. Can we pull that up? There we go. Good. All right. Well, let's come back to it. I'll put it in the private.
We're more fun anyway.
I know, right? Although I have to tell you, you are for sure more fun. However, and I say this almost every episode, don't I, Bianca? When I watch that ACA commercial, I am so proud to be in Arizona. It is an Arizonan, and it's the longest commercial we ever run in any of our podcasts. And yet it's always fun to hear all the great things that we represent in our state. So thank you for being flexible, and we will come back to that. So we have Arizona Commerce Authority properly introduced to our viewers and our listeners. So let's talk about some specific use case studies of companies that have turned digital marketing agencies for help with achieving business objectives and the solutions that they're looking for. What are some specifics that you can share?
Yeah, there's tons to touch on, and it's always tricky to know what people are going to find the most interesting with case studies. What I thought I'd highlight in our conversation today comes from a car dealer, an auto dealer that we work with here in Colorado, quite a large one. I'm sure you'd know the brand. Um, and when COVID rolled around, as many companies did, they needed to shut their physical footprint. And for the uninitiated in the audience, in the buying cycle of cars, going into the showroom is a key touch point. That a lot of the trust building happens, a lot of the feature discussions happen, a lot of the really major opportunities to earn that sale happen in the showroom. And so when the showroom shuts down, that's
Our
quite a tough spot to be in for the management of that dealership. And so they were left scrambling, trying to figure out how to stay alive and how to stay relevant through that transition. And the product that they sort of developed and then came to us saying, hey, how can we get this out there? Was basically to start doing a lot of what you find in the showroom at the customer's house. So the salesperson would literally drive the vehicle out and consult with them there and have a decent length conversation on property at the residence location. And then the game then is, well, how do we get that out there and how do we leverage this offering from the market? And so we worked with them to do a day of filming there on location. Speaking of video, touching back to the last conversation, video is so important because it's the most powerful storytelling medium, and stories are everything when it comes to marketing. And so we put together some really nice, shiny assets that told the story of why they built that product and what they were doing to disinfect cars before taking them out. It's kind of addressing some of the anxiety around the COVID pandemic, while also providing an effective functional product. And then we used paid social and paid search, which gives us access to a whole lot of fancy targeting tricks to deliver that video very directly to the person who might be in market for a vehicle and would be someone who might otherwise have gone to that showroom. And that 1-2 punch of really strong video creative delivered via paid search and paid social was tremendously effective, not just during the pandemic, but it was such a popular offering they never actually got around to switching it off again because it's become such a popular choice from buyers. And so you've just got a little microcosm there of problem, product-based solution, and then a communications challenge for how to get that solution out to market. And digital was just by a large margin the most effective delivery of that messaging. So I thought that'd be a good one to share there. If that makes sense to everybody in the room. Yeah.
Absolutely. Andrew, Rihanna, I know you've already touched on your own use cases. Anything else you'd want to add for that one?
No, I think Simon did a great job covering it.
All right. All right. Should we try for our Arizona Commerce Authority spot again? Let's do that, and then we'll come back for the rest of our conversation. Video's great when it works, right, Simon?
That's it, 100%.
Our streamlined pro-business approach helps you achieve more by putting less between you and future success. Less red tape, lower taxes, less distance separating you from the tech leaders of tomorrow. This innovative ecosystem will supply your business with tools and resources to compete in the 21st century and beyond. But your future is more than just business success. In Arizona, the lifestyle you want is at your fingertips. Explore cities known for their Southwest heritage and modern vision. Enjoy beautiful scenery and endless outdoor activities on land, water, or snow. And if you're looking for a little friendly competition, we've got plenty of teams to choose from. With constant sunshine, vibrant culture, and natural wonder, Arizona provides a style of living that's entirely unique. People from all over the world call our state home. From student leaders who fill the classrooms of our top-ranked universities, to a skilled and abundant workforce that's ready for what's next. To the neighbors, friends, and peers we interact with daily, Arizonans are united by a pioneering spirit that moves us forward. So as you look to the future, know that it's filled with the perfect balance of innovation and high-quality living that makes life better here.
Am I right? Is that not just a fantastic tribute to Arizona?
That's a good
Gets you
clip.
going.
I'm glad it worked for us the second time around there.
Yes.
Almost a little too much sunshine this summer. It's been a brutal summer, but here we go. All right. So we've been talking about deploying different digital marketing strategies and working collaboratively with agencies. As you collaborate with agencies, what are the most useful metrics to track when deploying a new digital marketing tactic? So, Simon, that could be something high level that you kind of track on all of your various campaigns. Rihanna, Andrew, maybe something specific that you were keeping an eye on as you've been working with Intero Digital.
Yeah, I really love this question. Metrics are so important in our industry. Everything's measured 35 different ways. But knowing which metric to focus on is just as important and can be a real, large dilemma. I'd say the true North Star businesses should be looking to in order to dictate which metrics they're tracking is about the business goals that led you to engage digital in the first place. What was the why behind the why? And that will have a downstream consequence for what you should be tracking. Because just to use a quick passing example, maybe you're already spending some money in paid ads in Google, and the reason you reached out to an agency is because you're not too sure what you're doing and you want to get a better return on that spend. Then the metric of ROAS, return on ad spend, is by definition the metric that led you to reach out to us. And so that's a really good one to focus on. But if I go to the next person down the road and the goal that they present with is, hey, we've got a new product in the market that no one's seen before, and I really want to get this out there. ROAS is a terrible measure because nobody knows what this thing is. Reach and educating the market is really the business goal that led you to reach out to us in the first place, in which case things like reach and engagement of the ads we push out and what that's looking like is going to become the metric. And I realize it's a little bit of a slippery get out of jail free card answer because it depends, as you so often hear in my industry. But I think that one of the true North Star metrics I'd give that's relatively all cases is cost per action or cost per acquisition, because the action or acquisition will change depending on what your goals are and who you are and what you're up to. But cost per action is almost always going to be a metric that we're looking at. But yeah, the answer I'd focus on is let your business goals, the why behind the why, let that dictate which metrics are important to you. And last note, and I promise I'll pass the mic, would be leverage your experts. If you're hiring an agency, ask them what metrics you should be focusing on and let them help you counsel through the gap between the business objective and the digital marketing metric that's of interest. Yep.
Yeah, Simon, agree with you there. A metric can be totally useless if you're, looking at something and it doesn't pertain to it. You have to look at the entire user journey. So top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, where are they? For example, if you have a, paid ad campaign that's an awareness campaign, and let's say it's driving to a blog, and you're getting a ton of click-throughs on that ad, that's great. But then when they go to the blog, they're not following through, to your purchase, or they're not, the scroll depth is really, really low, then you know that you're not directing them to the next step in the appropriate way. Maybe they need something else to carry them through the user journey.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, as a media company, we create a lot of our own content, but really, first and foremost, it has to be SEO friendly. So what are our keywords, first of all, relevant to our audience and our business? How are people finding us? Are we ranking high enough so that they come through organic or paid search? Then they land on the page, and we have a freemium model. So will they sign up for our newsletter? Is that the action? Or are they looking for something specific? And we have put our own, people may think banners, ads are dead or not. We have our own ads within our own website that then, have calls to action and conversion. So we look at conversion, just like Simon said, and all of this has a cost of acquisition, and it's got a funnel model like Rihanna touched on. So, it's incredibly important to think about that whole journey that she mentioned. And then each step of the way, you don't want to lose people. And, but you can at each step of the way. So, You got to be very,
Yeah.
very careful to kind of make the whole thing work. It's a very delicate, complex thing you have to put together and keep working it. As I said, Google can change the algorithms, any day they want.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think something else that's really important that Andrew's kind of highlighting there is there's no one metric that tells you everything you need to know. And so beware the tyranny of getting too focused on one metric. And something we run into a lot in our industry is the problem of vanity metrics. Because if you, dear client, tell me all you care about is having XYZ number of visitors to the website, it can be tempting to chase traffic that was never going to lead to sales in order to hit that metric you were asking for. And this is the tyranny of vanity metrics. And so, as Andrew was just stating there, keeping an eye on qualitative metrics in tandem to quantitative metrics is just vital. And it's a mistake and an easy one to make, to find one metric that you like that just feels comfortable and then just lock onto that, which is an easy mistake to make, but it's not a good way to go. Yep.
Absolutely. And I think marketing can feel like a black hole sometimes if you're not working within metrics. I think there are folks who you almost have to prove that marketing is worth it sometimes to certain folks. And being able to keep an eye on those metrics just helps you go to people at your company who are in leadership positions to show that things are working or that a different route is needed. I want to kind of combine the next two questions that we talked about. So what role does technology play in improving your digital marketing strategy, but are there specific tools or software that can really be used to dial into that technology and to give you that competitive edge when marketing?
Yeah, technology is so critical in this industry. I mean, I think it is in every industry, but particularly in this one, we are beholden to the tools that we have access to. I've been in this industry far too long now, and it's very telling behind the curtain of an agency what tools they're using, because that will dictate what they're able to get into. I'm very privileged to have a seat at Intera Digital this phase of my career, in part because we have our own software solutions. The Intero bot, something we've been developing and updating for over a decade, and it gives us partly gives us the ability to do things other agencies maybe don't have the same capacity to do, like mind map visualization of the website. So visualizing that sitemap can be critical. But moreover, it allows us to tailor the technology to fit our own use case. And so a good example there would be a quality score emulator. What the quality score of your ads are in Google Ads is critical to how the performance will end up going. Historically, you need to have access to someone's ads account in order to find out the quality scores. We built a solution ourselves to emulate that calculation without access. And that gives us the ability to look at the quality score of competitor campaigns, which would otherwise not be possible. And so, I mean, that the through line of the point is that what we're able to see is dictated by technology. And so having the right tech stack behind you to provide the metrics that you need to get what you're trying to do done is absolutely critical. So that, the technology stack's absolutely vital. Rihanna, I'd be curious to hear if you find that same experience internally on the Trimble side. I know you guys have got a pretty complicated ecosystem.
Yes, we do. Yeah, I mean, technology is a tool, right? So it's something that you use to accomplish something. And so I think it's really important to vet your technology very thoroughly before you implement it, and really ask, like, what is this tech helping me do? Is it helping me improve my metrics so I can get a better idea of where people are going? Or is it a technology that lets me test content before I put it out there, so I don't have a delay in sending out an email? If I'm testing the subject line, I have to send it to a small amount of people, and then send it to the wider amount. But if I have a technology that tests my keywords and test my writing before I put it out there, it changes my entire strategy. So yes, I would say it's super important. I would love to know more about InteroBot because I've never used it. So please tell me more. But I'm constantly looking up the latest trends to make sure that our team is is, moving towards more interactive content. So that's why it's always good to hear about new technology and tools.
Yeah, I strong agree is the short answer all around. Yeah, and Terabot's it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's not that it has a magic wand capability to do things other people can't do, which is a common misunderstanding we always want to defend against. But what it does enable us to do is just move much faster than we'd be able to do otherwise. And I'll give you another quick example there. So it essentially pulls apart a website into all of the nodes of that website and then analyzes that data in some really fancy ways, depending on what we're programming it to do. And so if we, for the example of the Slater website, they have a lot of content. And it might be the case that there's a given service they're trying to optimize around. And so to quickly identify every mention of that service within the entire website, we can program in Terabot to, while it's crawling, flag every mention of a given keyword that we're specifically targeting. And so where it would typically take a small army weeks to crawl through all of the content and find those mentions, in Terabot allows us to complete that task, which is essentially keyword mapping, extremely quickly. So anyway, I could ramble about in Terabot all day long.
Simon, we'll have to chat about this after the call.
Offline.
Yeah, exactly.
incredibly important, because we're a small company on one level, but we have an incredibly complex array of content on our website, from just news, but of course research, and then videos and all this other stuff. So it's very complex, and so mapping that, I have to tell you, Simon, I think I'm going to speak to you after this event.
What
Love
advice?
that.
Yeah, go ahead, Simon.
I was just going to say, I love that. Thank you for all the love from Terabot. The dev team will be blushing if they're listening.
Yeah.
Well, we got to vet it first, but yeah.
Yeah.
Carefully optimistic.
And I'm sure we'll have viewers and listeners curious as well, especially with Rihanna and Andrew leaning in. So they'll be like, oh, if it's that important to them, we need to do the same. What advice would you give to a company that's evaluating their digital marketing strategy? Rihanna kind of, teased a little bit of that in her last response, but what advice do you have when they're looking at their strategy?
Yeah, love that. I think being nimble is one that comes to mind for sure, because whatever's happening today, it will change.
Yes.
Before end of day. So being nimble is definitely a big one. And then leaning into collaborating with your partners. I think Rihanna, Andrew, and I have also, that word collaboration has come up a few times. It's just vital. It's very easy to give an agency too much leash, and then they're not paying attention to the nuances of your brand. It's easy to not give them enough leash and micromanage away all your billable hours. So I think collaboration and being nimble are the two big things that I would throw out there. Andrew, Rihanna, what do you guys think?
Rihanna?
Yeah, I agree with all those points, Simon. I would add that when you're evaluating your marketing strategy, your digital marketing strategy, you need to make sure that your business goals and values align. Making sure, what you said in terms of collaboration, everybody is on the same page. And then it's boring, but it's important, is that good old-fashioned audit of your current services. Like audit your digital marketing presence, audit your ROI, audit your current messaging. How does it align with your business goals? And then also, where are the gaps in your current strategy and where are your strengths? And then measuring that against your goals will give you a path forward that you can take. So you're not just blindly reaching in the dark for ways to improve.
Love that. Yeah.
And any advice in this similar sort of context on what companies should consider when selecting a digital marketing agency to work with? That can be such a big decision, and you want to make sure it's a culture fit, obviously, and that you enjoy working with the team. But I guess, Rihanna and Andrew, was there anything that really pushed you over the edge with Intero Digital and was like, this is definitely the team you want to work with? Or, were there red flags with others that you notice that you might want to warn other people about?
Well, I think responsiveness and attentiveness are incredibly important when you have an account manager or somebody working with your team, that point of contact, because no matter what else is going on in the world, you're worried about your own business, and that's the most important thing to you, right? So when you need help or you need advice or you have to get some answer for your boss or whatever you need to do, you really need that help. The second thing is to listen to them and see if what they're actually offering you is in your best interest, and or if they're just trying to upsell you on things. And a good test of that is often when they give you advice that doesn't benefit them monetarily. And one example would be, we were looking for a new web developer, and Simon put us in touch with a great guy. There's no money for Intero in that, but it was a huge help to us. And just having that network as well. So, having someone who also knows the industry more broadly and who to point you to if you need additional help is also incredibly invaluable.
That runs along the theme of collaboration, right? Continuing to be of good service and value to each other, even if there's no financial gain. It just means we're looking out for each other. Communication is key. I clearly hear that in everything that you're speaking on, these last couple topics we've been talking about. If we don't have communication between the company that we are representing and even guiding them as to what questions and what metrics they ought to be looking at, then there's a disconnect. Yeah. We only have a couple more minutes left. I think we have enough time for one last question. Bianca, do you want to tee us off for that one?
Absolutely. So another common theme I've been hearing in this conversation is that things are changing quickly in the world of digital marketing.
I even heard Simon say in a day. Did I hear that, Simon? Yeah. By the end of the day, it'll change.
It's actually changed since you asked me that last.
Trends will come and go. It's so hard to stay up to speed with everything that's going on. What are your predictions? What does the next decade maybe have in store for digital marketing? And are there interesting trends that we should keep an eye on within marketing?
What a meaty question. I love that. Well, I think I'm going to call out the big obvious answer I think we're all thinking, which is definitely AI. Right. That's going to be a huge game changer everywhere. And I think it's easy to overstate. For the record, it's easy to understate, it's easy to overstate. It will change the way that we engage almost everything in technology. It won't change the need for human guidance and insight and strategy. And so, we had Andrew and I had a wonderful presentation on this topic a little while back, specific to his industry. And lean in cautiously is the quote I kept coming back to. Would be a fool to think, head in the sand's the way to go. But also the world's not quite as on fire as it might sound, based on AI. And I think what you'll see happen is the availability of creative, of strategy, of assets, of everything will go through the roof. And I think the need for quality over quantity will increase. There'll be more noise. And so the importance of finding the signal will go up higher. Yeah.
We look at a lot of products coming onto the market, particularly in the multilingual space. And I'll be very quick because I know we're seeing AI being introduced into video solutions where you can actually change the ethnicity, the look of someone, the language on the fly. So in terms of corporate marketing and creating your own videos or working with a professional service agency, also speech-to-speech translation is getting faster in business meetings and things like that. And content creation, most people think about the commonalities of ChatGPT throwing something out there, but you can actually now use tools, and there are tools that are using machine translation and allowing you to change the context, the semantics, formal, less formal, all on the fly, producing things very, very quickly. It's still in the early stages of this, but it's a very exciting time.
Yeah, Andrew, I agree. I mean, AI is the big topic. I think it's a good for research. We haven't got to the point yet where it's as good for producing and implementing, but we'll see. One of the things I think that will happen with AI and all of these technologies is the immersion of all different forms of communication. We'll see more immersive content. So you'll have video combined with text. The metaverse, everything is gonna come together so that we can really create. Basically, we're recreating that physical experience virtually, right?
Right.
because now that we've moved more into the digital space, people are wanting that connection still, and that connection is what makes marketing successful.
We could
What a mic drop moment. Well done.
Right. I was just going to say the same thing. That, and we can have easily another hour long conversation, and hope to have you guys back for that opportunity. Thank you all for such a rich conversation, and I have no doubt that we brought some great nuggets to our viewers and listeners. Today's AZ Techcast was brought to you by, again, Arizona Commerce Authority, the state's leading economic development organization with a streamlined mission to grow and strengthen Arizona's economy. So we always appreciate Arizona Commerce Authority's contribution to our podcast. If you're interested in being a podcast participant or sponsor for the Council's AZ Techcast, then please contact marketing@aztechcouncil.org, and you'll find Bianca at the other end of that email so that you can learn more about the opportunities to further position yourself as a tech expert, influencer, and innovator. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki, and again, we appreciate listening to AZ Techcast.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of AZ Techcast with Arizona Technology Council, featuring leading tech and business experts that help influence and shape our great state and the industries they serve.